Hello everyone, welcome to Your World or Mine. Show me yours and I'll show you mine. And I'm really honored here today as a visitor on this most beautiful blue planet to have Devi and Prem with me today. They're all the way from Switzerland, but they do things all over the globe. And you will find out soon why I'm saying it's really an honor. Because being a human being at this time can be quite challenging. And we need all the support and guidance to really be able to enjoy life, but to also have beautiful relationships with others, and also the way we treat the planet itself and during our daily activities. And you'll soon see why I say it's an honor to have this beautiful couple in front of us here today, which we will engage with. Now, Devi, I would like to ask you, what is it like to be alive at this moment in time?
It's a very good question. As you already mentioned, there are challenges, but it's also amazing. It's kind of a miracle to be here on this planet, to manifest here and to have the possibility to go through all human stuff, I call it. To be able to also to share with people, to do some good, also to take care of the planet, especially, as you mentioned, in these times where, the planet needs really our help. So it's nice what we do with our work to contribute there a little bit.
Now, what is your work? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so we do meditation, we do yoga. I also do Thai yoga massage and craniosacral work, which is all kind of in the same pool. What we like to do is we want to make people aware of, especially of their inner state. Yeah, because I think, and we both think, that it all depends on how we feel, how our state is, that we show to the world. So whenever we are in a good state, we are connected with our deeper self and higher self, then we can spread that, so we can share in that. And with the work we both do, and we can really, do also something for the planet.
I'm just sensing into that. As you're speaking, all my cells starts to rejoice when you speak about the inner state of being of ourselves and how the world, because the world responds to that. It's an interplay between energies. We're not isolated. We are all interconnected with each other and with everything around us, especially nature as well. So when you say that, I feel it in my body. It's very interesting where I feel it. There's a sudden upsurgence of energy in my body when you say that. So for me, that's a sense of being alive, of being truly alive, when we're so deeply connected with our inner self. Now, Prem, I want to ask you, Devi, you mentioned the beautiful things about meditation and yoga. But Prem, I think a lot of people don't really understand what meditation is about. What would you say meditation is about? I know there's many different forms of meditation, but if you had to tell me as an alien what is meditation, what would you tell me?
As you say, there are many kinds of meditation, and they all involve bringing your attention within yourself. It's great to want to improve the planet, but if we don't improve ourselves, we are basically living possibly with a lot of discomfort and a lot of tension inside, which is not really contributing to the upliftment of other people. So it's interesting that you are mentioning you feel a rising energy. We call the practice that we do rising energy meditation. And the reason for that, very good. And the reason for it is that, there is the ancient tradition of awakening your deeper energy flow that purifies. Purifies is a funny word, but it cleans up in a way your past patterns and tensions that are built into us from birth and from growing up. So even if a person is young, there's still been enough time to build up some tensions inside and some difficulties and obstacles. Yeah? And that's not in itself anything bad, but we want to use it in our inner meditation to, in a way, melt those tensions so that they become an inner flow of energy, and then it rises in the spine and it creates wisdom and compassion, basically, which certainly is needed. So that's a very, very nutshell description. We could talk a long time about what the practice is and does, but in a nutshell, that's what it is.
I can maybe just share what I'm experiencing currently, because I think it can be quite meaningful and useful for others, is that when you're in such a state, that rising energy, and without labeling it and giving it a name or trying to define it, is that in such a moment, it's impossible to hate somebody else, to feel judgment, to feel confused, because the energy makes you also grounded at the same time. It's an upsurgence of energy, but I'm at this moment very, very aware of my hands, and this is my personal experience. Everybody else would experience it differently. There's not only one right way in my experience of these type of physical experiences, because it's a very physical experience as well. But my feet has a funny sensation. And when I say funny, there's a tingling across my toes, and I'm wearing boots because where I am, it's winter. And I prefer to be bare feet, but it's winter, so I'm wearing boots. But I'm deeply aware of my connection to the earth as well. So at the same time that you cannot feel any destructive thoughts or emotions, there's this groundedness in it as well as an expansive feeling. So I'm simply sharing my experience when you shared that, because what's arising as well is there's so much else available to you in such moments. And like you say, that melting away of the other things, our stuff, it's like emptying a cup. There's more space for something else to come in.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you are full of your resistance and tension and anger and sadness and whatever, there's nothing wrong with any of those feelings, but if you can let go of some of them, then they contribute to this sense of being grounded and this sense of energy rising within. And you in a way, rise above your problems. So I think it's also very interesting what you say about your own experience. You have to have a certain grounded base for this kind of practice to really work for you, because otherwise people tend to float off into space and have a lot of illusory thoughts and so on. But to really let go into the deeper inner self it needs grounding, and it needs letting go, and it needs asking also. You need to turn your attention inside and really ask for it.
The other thing that I want to mention of this experience, which is truly beautiful and profound, is that when I look at you two now, it's also very interesting what happens to my body if I put my attention to your inner self in this moment. So I cannot even imagine the effect it will have on all human beings if we are able to, on a very physical level, experience each other's inner selves. So there's much more to meditation as such, as a practice, then one might think it's much more, it has much more impact. That happens spontaneously because it's not something we have to do to make it happen. It's the state of being that's in the driving seat, so to speak, if I can, in my experience, share that. So when somebody, Prem, has never done meditation, what way would you suggest they approach it the first time around? And maybe if I can even rephrase that question. Is there a difference between mindfulness and meditation? Because I know a lot of people learn how to be mindful in the workplace, how to be mindful at school, in university, whatever the scenario is. But is there a difference between the two, just as a start, then from there?
Do you want to answer? Yeah. Well, mindfulness is, of course, very good, and it includes bringing your attention inside, because it is from the awareness that you pay more attention to things around you. So you have to be aware inside as you are moving through the world. But the practice that we are doing goes deeper than that even, because it's really asking into the inner system, the chakras and the energy system. Please dissolve, melt old patterns and tensions and transform that into an energy flow. And that goes deeper, you know, then you are really, in a way, cleaning up the past and really opening to being fully in the moment and being open to maintaining connection with that moment as you move into the future.
I'm sensing again into that, and it's interesting what I see. I see somewhat difficult to explain it, but it's like there's gates in front of me in my vision, one going into the other, into the other, into the other. So it's like unlocking within and without. And the sensation is again that it's unlocking all that way. And it's absolutely effortless. It's unlike the busyness of the world that we know. We have to continuously do stuff and be busy and prove ourselves and achieve stuff. And again, the energy surges. So it's a sense of, in that quietness, you dissolve all these unwanted, these unnecessary things. And at the same time, you're available to so much more. Now, Devi, I'd like to ask you, in your experience as a woman, is your experience of meditation, of yoga, of all the beautiful practices that you share, what is the influence of that on you as a woman, specifically in the sense of the more feminine side of being? Is there a difference for you between our active, and we all have a feminine and a masculine side inside of ourselves. But from a feminine perspective, because we live in a world where everything is so masculine based, does your practices help us to come more into the feminine, regardless of whether we're male or female?
Yeah, I have the feeling this is what also I try to do, especially because I'm a woman. Yeah, and usually there are, you know, in meditation, there are mostly men also teaching. There are many gurus. There are also many yoga teachers. And it's mostly actually men who are visible. Yeah, they're talking, they're on the ether. Women are mostly in the background. So it doesn't mean that women necessarily have to be in the foreground, but I think it's very, very important, especially in the meditation, that women also come forward and teach the meditation. In yoga, of course, there are many female yoga teachers, and I think it's very important for both. Yeah? What I do in the yoga and in the meditation, of course, because he has a different flavor. He is, of course, male. I'm a female. So because what we also teach is the open eye meditation. And this is a connection, an energy connection between you and me, if we would do it together, or between him and you. So what I don't know how to say, maybe channel, because it's not really, because the energy is going through us. So but it gets the flavor, it gets more maybe a softer flavor than from a man. There are, of course, also hard women, but for me, it's very important to bring especially more love, more understanding, and more of the female qualities out into the world. Because as you said, we mostly man-dominated world we live in. And I can feel that when especially, well, I have a class with only women, but I can still feel the influence. And there is a lot of competition even. But the yoga I'm doing is actually a preparation for going deeper into the meditative state. It's not about getting fit or physical. Of course, it's a very nice side effect, but this is not the main reason I'm teaching the yoga. The main reason is also to go through the body to the deeper self and get the connection again. And there is also a mindfulness, it's part of that, because you have to be aware. That's the first step. You have to be aware of everything which is in there. And so the style of yoga I'm teaching is very slow to become really aware. Whatever you do, every movement, every breath you take, you have to be aware of it. You really have to feel it and just take it in. And from that, you can really get deeper inside and just feel what's in there, because we have that female and that male side. We both need that. But it's really important to have the more female qualities in a very hard and fast world we're in there. But I'm kind of, I mean, for me, it's just natural that we have men and women. Yeah, of course, I'm for more women rights, but I wouldn't say, we need both. Yeah, to have a balance. It's always about the balance. So, but I can feel, that it is more needed to send out also some more female qualities.
I'm so, I really, like my body gets excited. I get excited when I hear you say awareness, the slowing down, and the softer side. Because we live in a world with a lot of harshness, especially on social media, where especially our younger generations are really struggling with verbal abuse, with bullying, and all sorts of things. And that happens in the immediate environment as well, wherever they go to school or university, does not matter, their social environment. And in such a harsh world, that melting the softness, if I'm like fully, say something happens to me and I'm completely resistant, so my body tenses up, and just that, like you say, Prem, to have that, to ask, I want to connect to this inner self, which is soft and flowing. It immediately softens us. So because when I soften in my body, the resistance disappears. If I consciously do that, I have the intention to soften my body, even if I don't not know necessarily how to connect to my inner self. But just from a physical point of view, the softening of the body makes me immediately, it softens everything. It just kind of dissolves things as well. But what I really appreciate you mentioning is the awareness part. Because in a masculine world where we come from, and we're just in a transition phase, so neither is wrong, masculine or feminine, it's simply where we are in life at the moment, is our attention is much focused outwards, because we've been conditioned that way. So to come inwards might be very strange for a lot of people. And simply becoming aware, where is your attention at the moment? And to bring it into the body brings us closer here to ourselves. And some type of practice that we can just connect here to here, not so much out there. But I also felt in a lot of resonance with, as you said, slowly. Because when we do things fast, it doesn't necessarily have a lot of impact, because and the world is so fast now. And when we speak to the younger ones, everything is instantaneously. I want to know something, I go to Google and I get it. So there's not really anything in the rhythm of life which brings us back to our natural rhythm inside, right? Like you said, this inner self. So when I connect the two parts, when I now look at you as a representation of the masculine, Prem, and you, Devi, as a representation of the feminine, I can see that beautiful flow on that level. Like you said, Devi, you are the softer side, and Prem is the more, I don't even want to say harder because I don't like that. It doesn't resonate. But you know what I mean? The more prominent outwards expression of the spirit, of the soul. Even though you're very, very present here. It has nothing to do with presence. But I can see that interflow. So when you two work together, do you work together, or do you when you do meditations or yoga, do you combine it? Do you work together? How do you do it, Prem?
We work together, but usually, you know, if one person is holding a meditation class, an open eyes meditation, you really have to do that as one person, because otherwise it's too confusing. So we do that separately, but we are usually, the other person then participates in the group, you know, are usually present, or if we're traveling alone sometimes, then we hold program on our own. And so I also wanted to add, you know, that there are soft men, and there's nothing wrong with young men being soft, but soft is not the same as weak. In fact, it's the opposite. If you can really tolerate the soft opening inside yourself, it gives you really immense strength. That energy inside is very clear and it's very powerful. And it's not your ego, but it's what's flowing in you that gives you a sense of nothing to worry about. I can deal with things. Of course, you have your human qualities and limitations, and they come up. But then, as you said before, you know, I like to say no problem can survive in an open heart. And that's basically what you said before. You know, it cannot live in you if you go to a deeper place. By going to a deeper place, these more superficial identity things and intentions, they melt and it becomes more of an energy flow. It's a little bit like ice melting inside, and of course it gets soft and it gets fluid and it flows down to the base of the spine, and then it gets heated up with your own inner attention and whatever help you're getting from another person. And then it heats up and it rises to the top of the head. And that's a very liberating experience. And the older you get, I can testify, the more important it is, really. It's a great investment in your own future. It's like putting energy in the bank. It grows and it will give you back. It's about the only thing in life that is guaranteed to give you back more than you give.
And now I feel it interesting. I just want to share where I feel it. I think it's very useful. I feel it in my belly now as she was speaking. So it's a sense of power. And when we talk about power, it's not in the way of controlling other people.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you mentioned the difference between being weak and gentle, softness, whatever we use for word for that, the flowing part of ourselves. It's very different from being weak, where we act out from our wounded sides. And like you said, we can use these practices to dissolve those wounded parts of ourselves into the bigger part of who we really truly are, our true magnificence. And like you say, it's very different from arrogance as well. That power that then runs through you is not arrogance. It's something completely different. But you'll feel it in your body. It's, for me, a body experience versus a mental experience. And when I say body, it's a full, whole person experience, not just one part, where we have a specific thought, or where we think we're powerful, because that doesn't mean we are really allowing this powerful energy to run through us and to go out into the world. Now, Devi, I want to ask you mentioned earlier, or I think, Prem, you mentioned, but I want to ask you, Devi, about our chakras. What is a chakra?
Well, we look at, it's a good question, because there are so many definitions out there about the chakras, and I think also, the original texts say something different than how we use it in the West. So maybe I can say how we use the chakras. And we work mainly with this, the main chakras, which are along the spine, and we use them as gateways to our deeper self, to the inside. So when we do the breathing exercise, we have this breathing also to get our mind focused inside. So we do this breathing which goes down the front and up the spine, which is where the main chakras, where the gates to the inside are located. So automatically by doing that, without even really having to know exactly where they're located, because there are also many different possibilities. And so we breathe and use the feeling, the awareness. Where do I feel something? For some might be maybe maybe I call it blockage, or I can feel something in my throat. Then I focus more on this part, this gateway, to get to the deeper self without involving the mind. What does it stand for? What is it? Or what does it mean? You just really feel it and then get it inside. Also use the energy circulation, the breathing, to transform the blockage, to let it melt and to get the flow back into the body.
You know what comes up as you share that? It's the perception, and it's purely from the world where we come from. It's not necessarily bad, but it's just where we come from. As we evolve as human beings, becoming more aware of the different parts of ourselves, is that as a child, we learn that this is a body. But we do not learn, or become aware, rather not learn, become aware that there's this energy flow inside of ourselves. It's almost like, and these days we are treating people like that as commodities, a thing, sadly. And when we come into the world, that process, we could just look at what the little one does when they come into the world. The first experience is wowness, because there most probably some strange man hit you on your bum in the theater or wherever you were born, and wow, all this light and stuff around you. And then there's this woman, and she holds you close, maybe she cries, or they're elated, but there's emotion, so there's immediately an emotional type experience. And you know exactly to go to the breast. Nobody has to tell you to go to the breast. You explore immediately of what's, and you know where substance is. It's here from a physical point of view. And so you start to get up in your little cot, and you sit up and you stand up by yourself, and you start crawling and walking. But it's an awareness experience of what's around yourself. But that energy, if I can say, maybe it might not be even making sense to say it in this way, but as that baby begins to move around, it's energy that moves the baby around. Because what is exactly that moves the baby around? To allow you to stand up, to take on a different pose or posture. So it almost seems as if we have lost that innate energy, connection to the energy flow within ourselves, because we were not made aware of it. We're made aware of many, many different other things, and some are nonsensical. Whereas if from baby's birth already, we make them aware of this energy flow inside of themselves, this inner shell. That's the one who's looking out, who's experiencing all of this that's going on around them. But now there's sort of the separation. And that separation just grows through time, unfortunately. And then we need beautiful practices like the ones you share and experiences to come back to this inner self. And I just think back when I was a child, what were the things that gave me most joy was where I was able to move. This is just me now, might not be everyone, but it shows me that from my point of view, the natural part was this energy wanted to flow. It didn't want to be suppressed in some or other way. Now, Devi, I want to ask you a very interesting question, purely out of a personal experience myself. Now, I was doing Kundalini yoga for many years, but again, I don't associate now what I share relating to the practice, but it's to my own experience of it, and obviously of where I was in my life at that time, was I felt restricted in some types of yoga. My body felt restricted. It wanted to move, but it couldn't. Why would you say, I don't expect you not to be my doctor, but it would be interesting to get your view of why somebody would, in the beginning, I was almost addicted to it, if I could say, because this rising of the energy was so neat, but there were some parts that I felt restricted in my body, my physical body. What can be done to, when somebody gets into such an experience, to transcend that or transmute it?
The Kundalini yoga is also very slow. You hold the poses longer. Nah, it's not such an, there are so many different kinds of yoga, but I just use an example of the yoga flow. There you move a little bit more. So, people are also different. And as you mentioned, it's the state of life you're in at that moment. Nah? So what I do in my yoga, because I combine the movement, the physical movement with the energy movement. So there is movement from the physical, because I know many people they sit the whole day in the office and they have, as you expressed, that they have that urge to move. So I try to, even, if they need to hold a pose a little bit longer, but then to really focus on the movement of the energy. Yeah. So then maybe you feel, if you said you felt some restriction here, it could be also that it was kind of a blockage where the energy couldn't move through anymore. And then what I always say, everything is allowed. If you feel I can't stand still in that pose anymore, move. Do the movement which feels right at that moment for you, because this is what suits you. The yoga is not there to suit me, the teacher. It's there to feel you comfortable, to make you aware, to go deeper inside. And if you have that at that moment, the feeling, no, I can't stand still anymore, to get more out of the pose, I need to move. Then you just do a movement. So it depends on, how people do. There are so many really great yoga teachers out there, and but unfortunately there are also many not so well trained. And I think the most important is it's not just being well trained in the yoga, but it's also, the same practice to go deeper inside, so that you really feel that it's the love which comes out, that you give that on to people. Because it's not only about the body.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something very important for us all to be aware of. It's how we choose where we go to when we do these type of practices. And there's nothing wrong. It's not that somebody's bad or you're bad. It's nothing to do with that. It's where, like you said, it's where one is at that time within your own life, and the right space to nurture you, but to also, I don't like to use the word challenge, but to also help you to go deeper in whatever deeper means for you at that moment in time. And what I like what you say is there's the two things. There's the movement part and the energy part. And if I now have to think back, at that time in my life, I was not necessarily connected to the energy inside of me. I was connected deeply to the movement, but not to the energy. I was not even so I was so aware of my body as a physical vehicle that caused more contraction. Now I feel it. I now know exactly why I went into a bit of resistance, because my focus was on my dense body and not on the flow of the movement of the energy, because that would take away the restriction immediately, no matter the pose. Now I want to try that tonight. I was recently injured in an accident and I cannot really do yoga anymore because I hurt my right arm severely. So anything where I need to use my hands, where I put pressure on my hands, I struggle. I actually did it yesterday again for the first time in a few days, and whoa, I felt the pain in my arm severely. But I want to tonight try it where I focus on the energy flow instead of the pain in the body. And I can already feel I can feel the flow already. That's the pain, the physical pain that I'm aware of will kind of dissolve.
You can also, direct your attention to the pain in your shoulder, in your case. Yeah, because I try to let people know that where your awareness is, there is your energy. Yeah, because if you focus on your shoulder, then the energy is moved here, and it can release blockages. Of course, it depends, whatever it is. I'm not saying you can heal now your shoulder completely by yourself, but we have abilities, especially if we're already know how to use our energy and also direct energies. Yeah.
I've had personal experience of that too. I had a very interesting experience last year where I woke up one morning, I couldn't move, my back, and I've never had any back problems, and long time before this injury, and I couldn't move, but I knew energy was stuck. And my friends wanted to take me to the doctor, and I said, no, I'm going to, through meditation, through going in very deeply, disassociate myself from the pain that I feel in my body. And it worked. And the energy started to flow again. And then I realized something very important in my personal experience, that one can, if you have any experience of pain in your body, physical pain in your body, on a mental level, dissociate yourself from it and dissolve that energy blocking through meditation and breathing. I did a lot of interesting breathing things as well, because for 2 days I couldn't move at all. And on the second day, I decided I'm going to, through that process, take control of my own well-being, to say it in such words, and start that process. And it was really empowering to realize that I can disassociate from a mental level, that the pain that I'm experiencing is actually a mental experience. It's not really a physical experience. Yes, energy is blocked, but my experience of the pain was a mental experience. And it will be interesting if I do now that the same with my arm, to slowly heal that ligaments in that way as well that got so severely hurt, and to strengthen them. So Prem, I want to ask you now something. You spoke earlier about, one of the two of you spoke about open eye meditation. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Well, the practice that we do is tantric in a sense, not in the commonly understood meaning of it now in the West, but it is tantric in the sense that it focuses on energy, and it is tantric in the sense that it, going back to what you're talking about with your pain, dissociate is a fine word, But I would also maybe add that you know, it's the main thing is that you don't sweep it under the carpet and leave it there and it gets worse, but you embrace it lovingly. So in the practice that we do, we want to embrace our own life lovingly and extend that to other people. Yeah, so in a way, you know, these texts that describe this, they describe it as going through the body into the more subtle aspects of ourselves. And it's all based on, I would call it a fact. Maybe some people wouldn't agree that it's a fact, but when you talk about baby, the baby is born from energy, you know? So, and then it hardens more and more and more in terms of activating the mind and being influenced by all the conditioning and tensions and struggles and all of that. So by the time a person is 18, 20 years old, that identity, which is necessary, you know, you want to have an identity that functions in society, but you don't want it to make you stuck. You don't want to just go on automatic with that identity. You want to be able to turn your attention inside and penetrate that identity into the source of it. And the source of it you can find through the breath, through the chakras, through the flow, and opening into that really unlimited space and state inside where there really are no problems, because you are just present and grateful for being alive. So the open eyes practice is to go into the chakras with your breathing, relax, feel grounded, and then start with the circulation of the breath and let that relax you and get you opened up a little bit inside. Your attention is fully there. And then we do something called a double breathing exercise, which is a little too technical for here, but it's basically really focusing in the heart and asking deeply for the heart to open. And you can really feel it. And then you let a little of the air out, and then you inhale again, and you feel your chakra below the navel really opening up. And then you exhale slowly, and you bring your attention to the base of the spine and up to the top of the head. And then you go back to breathing normally in this circulating fashion. So this is a very, very strong exercise. You know, you will build up heat in the body, but it's a way of paradoxically embracing your tensions and blocks and limitations, not to sweep them under the carpet, but to say, well, these tensions in me and this attachment to the physical and the attachment to the mental and the emotional, those are just energies under pressure. Because they, as you said before, you know, you felt that you had pain in the mind. This is kind of a mental suffering that we, by our upbringing, learn to inflict on ourselves. Pain is fine. You can embrace pain and it becomes an energy experience. Eventually, it may not happen right away. But this is the idea that we go back through the body, through the breathing, through the chakras, to the very finest aspects of ourselves. And then we feel liberated from this body. And we need to feel that if we're going to die happily.
That's why we came here.
Exactly right.
To have this physical experience.
Yeah.
So Prem, I'm not even sure how to express this properly. But from what you just shared, in the current world that we live in, we have many therapists, we have many coaches and many mentors, and many doctors and specialists and all kinds of doctors. And I say this with a lot of reverence to everybody. It's not saying that's bad or at all. It's simply as it is. Where we focus on symptoms sometimes, mostly, when we experience uncomfortableness in our body or our mind or emotional state, we run to somebody outside. I've got this pain, I must go to the doctor. And they treat the symptoms. Yes, I've torn ligaments and they have to grow back and I have to make them strong, but I have to do it. The doctor cannot do it, or the physiotherapist. I have to do the physical techniques, whatever it might be needed to strengthen those muscles, and for example. But that sort of, that's why I said I lack the right word to express it. We give it over to somebody else to sort out. They must tell us what's wrong with us. So whether it's an emotional state that doesn't allow us to be the whole being that we are, or a thought pattern, or a belief system, or something in our subconscious minds, does not matter. It's we go outside of ourselves. So we go to look for outside of ourselves. But what you share, and you, Devi, is something where we take it, and I don't also like to use the word responsibility in this context, but it is actually, in the normal sense that we refer to responsibility in the world, it is taking response for my own beingness, or what's happening inside me. And whatever I experience externally is just a mirror of what's really going on inside here of me, whether it's an energy blockage, and like you say, those deeper parts of ourselves, the hurt parts, the wounded parts. But there's so much more power in it when we start to be at the captain of our own ship.
And of course, the first thing is that you have to be aware of it. And many people, they don't become aware until it becomes a serious, really strong thing that they then go to the doctor with, or they avoid and go drinking or taking drugs or something. So, taking responsibility for looking inside yourself, in your physical body and into the deeper parts of yourself, is for the purpose, of developing your self-healing skills. Not with the illusion that you can fix everything. Many times you need help, and that's a good thing. But not to run to the doctor every time you get a little headache, because all you have to do is breathe into the center of your head and relax, and the headache most likely will go away. Not always, but people are not trained to do that. So this kind of practice is a training process where we are, first of all, unlearning all the things that we have learned to develop our identity, all of which are good. But as you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So the good intentions of parents and teachers and everybody who's training us to be good social participants, they actually also have shut off the door to our inner self. So we have to retrain ourselves, go back there and find out, what is this? How can I really connect with my deeper self? And it can bring some, as I'm sure you've had experiences like, wow, you go in there and you just feel such energy flow and such joy and such gratitude for just being alive and for being able to share that with people without fear, without ego, without any kind of manipulative tendency in yourself.
That's something that you cannot suppress, that surge of energy. And the interest, it's something you cannot physically yourself suppress. It is so powerful that when you allow it to flow naturally, it's unstoppable, it's indestructible. And that knowing that does not matter what happens outside in the world. Yes, we contribute to it with every single thought, with every single emotion, to the state of our outer world. We contribute to that. So we're not part of it, but it is where we act from and where we come from, this deeper place inside, where we don't have to please anybody, we don't need approval, we don't need permission to be that energy, because that's who we are. And that expression, we all express that in a very different way. Some people are extreme, I can also be extremely calm inside of myself. And then there's other times that my body wants to go into this vitality type space where it just wants to go into the more active side. And that's okay. And everybody has a very different way of expressing that through the different things we do in the world. But it is to know that we can always come back to this inner state when we get disturbed of what's going on outside of ourselves. So instead of then getting entangled into that, what's happening outside of ourselves, which is a reflection of what's really in here as well, is how we actually then be in the world and how we can then relate to what's happening outside of ourselves from a more empowered space. So when I, for example, with people online or with my peers at school or university, and there's really stuff going on that I don't feel comfortable with, is this knowing that I can come back to this inner peace inside of myself. Because it not only allows me to respond to the world in a different way and to approach the world in a different way, but for my own well-being, it's so powerful. So I don't need to run to the doctor, like you say, every 5 minutes for this or that other pain. And the more we become aware of our inner state, the less we get ill. Because there's balance in, you spoke about, Devi, the chakras, the energy centers, the energy flow in our bodies. When there's flow, we don't feel dis-ease. There's natural flow going on. And it's really amazing that technology and communications has now allowed us to actually now engage in this way. So Prem, I want to ask you, you spoke about the open eye meditation, any types of meditation for that matter. Is it effective when you do it in a group or in a personal one-on-one session online or in a group session? Is it just as effective as when you do it in a physical environment where you're together with other people?
Well, I have in the last 6 months or so, we have both been doing this on Zoom, like we are doing now. And, if I look at your eyes right now, do you see my eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I'm looking at your eyes and I'm working inside, opening, which I've been doing throughout the whole session, and then, I feel that connection and flow with you, and the degree to which you open to that, of course, it's going to have an impact on you, and you send good things back to me, and pretty soon there's a feeling not only of energy flow, there's a feeling of oneness. We are one, despite the fact that we are in some technological world. So I have been very pleased to see, we have been very pleased to see that the response from people who practice with us is very good. So one person the other day said, well, because now I've been away from it for a few weeks because we've been in Mallorca, and he's begging to start up again because his practice is not going as well without it. So, we need this kind of help in turning our attention inside. And of course, it's a lot more powerful when you sit in a group and when you have somebody who's gone through a long period of transformation using these types of practices. Then you get more energy flow and you get a confidence and trust gradually that, yeah, here I can really allow myself to open up. So it is very powerful and wonderful. I mean, it's good to sit by yourself, of course. This is to have a regular practice, but it's also very good to get together in a group, in a physical place, retreats and so on. And it's also very good to do this on the internet. It's totally possible.
That's the wonders of the internet, that we can use it for all types of different things. And it's up to us to decide what we want to put our attention and our time to. But you mentioned a few very important things for me about the possibility to experience something like this online. these type of practices to get introduced to them, to go deeper and deeper, to be strengthened. But the part of the effect it has on our outer life, that when we are by myself, yes, there's the possibility of doing that, like you say. But when we're in a group, there's something called the Indra web.
Yeah, go ahead.
You need to move. You need to move.
I'm happy. No, you know, I'm sitting up on two pillows, and it's because we looked at the picture first, and so anyway, has nothing to do with our conversation. I'm quite comfortable sitting, but I'm doing something a little unusual. Okay, go ahead.
That's actually wonderful. You share that you're doing something unusual.
Yeah.
Because it's when we do something unusual that energy also starts to flow in different ways. But what I wanted to share is the possibility of being in a group bring into me the memory of the Indra web. And I don't know if everybody's familiar with that, but what it actually means is, and I'm somebody who personally very easily entrained with other people's energy. So I sort of become their energy. So then I have to always come back to myself again to know who this is me and that's the other person, which is one of my gifts. But in terms of being in a group, in the intraweb, in a very simplistic way of describing it, is that whatever you experience is available to me as well. So we like tuning forks for each other. So say I came into the session today in a highly disturbed state of being. I had lots of troubles havocing my whole experience of life, lots of things, chaos is happening around me. I might feel extremely overwhelmed with what's happening in the world and how to cope, conflict I have with other people, whatever it might be. But when you come into such a group space, where there's that total group energy, it's so much easier to get. It's like everybody else is tuning for, and you tune into the higher vibration, so to speak. So that when you leave, besides the belonging part, that you're part of a group, which is a human thing we all need to thrive, is the belonging part. To be part of something that's not just ourselves, something bigger than ourselves. But this group energy is extremely powerful. And so it doesn't matter what my state of being is when I come into the session online, for example, which make it easier for me to be supported where I am. I don't know, I need to fly to you, to Switzerland, to come and see you. Technology enabled us now to share these beautiful experiences and to support each other, to strengthen each other in that way. And it doesn't take any energy. So it's not that I'm now going to deplete you because you're now sharing this experience, but the group energy is bigger than ourselves. And that's extremely powerful. So what you experience, I can easily tune into with my awareness. And at some stage, there's a dissolving sort of. It's the only way I can explain it because I don't have to think about it. I don't even need to think about my awareness. It's just there. And I feel what the bigger energy is about. And that's extremely powerful in today's life with so much technology, where we can easily feel isolated even with all the stuff going on around ourselves. But it's more important is these practices that you mentioned, that we can then share in such a way that we can be supported, that we don't have to give up, that when we're depressed, we know there's a way to come out of that depression. Because in our experience, depression is just a suppression of your spirit. Your spirit is not allowed for this flow from energetic level to happen, but also your own expression of this energy is restricted. Now, Devi, does yoga help for us when we feel depressed, when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel confused? Does yoga help us with that?
You know, there are many researchers nowadays about yoga, but also other sports, kind of sports. So of course, I'm all for the yoga part because it's not only for physical, but it's so important, especially when you're feeling a little bit down and not very joyful and happy as usual, maybe, then the movement really helps a lot. And here the combination with the yoga is the movement and the inner focus. So in the beginning, you don't want to go in because there is all the pain, there's everything which makes you depressed. So you can use the physical, the body first to focus in, and then slowly but surely, via the physical, you can go again to the inside, where the cause of your depression, of your not feeling good, actually lies. So it's really very, very good to do movement. And of course, the yoga provides movement. What I earlier said, the combination of the physical movement, but also the energy movement. So depression might also, that the energy is stuck somewhere. So, and through the physical, you also get the energy moving again and bring it into the right way of moving, where it belongs to. And I integrate the breathing techniques we do in the rising energy meditation. I do as well in the yoga practice. So it's kind of the same techniques I use there to, the circulation of the energy along the spine or the main chakras. So it really helps to melt tension, which might be the cause for the depression. So it's kind of from the outer from the gross to the subtle.
As you're sharing that, my immediate awareness comes to the breath. And it's fascinating how, as human beings, have lost our connection to our own breath, because just generally speaking, we don't have to think about breathing. It's one of those things that just happen, like our heart beating. But we are so disconnected from it. And some of us breathe very shallow and exhausted. And it's the first, it's something natural within us. So we don't need to be, when somebody talks about breathing exercises, we don't need to be afraid of it, because it's one of the first things you did when you came into this world. And you wouldn't be here today if you're not breathing. So we should not be afraid of when we hear terms like meditation, mindfulness, yoga, breathing exercises. Because I remember sometimes in the business world, if you were asking people to do some breathing exercises in some type of activity, whoa, the eyes, what are you doing with us? And then you just slowly make them aware of, are you not doing that every single moment of your life? It's our awareness of it that makes a difference. It's like when you say, there's so many different types of breathing techniques that we can do to make life more, that our well-being is more vital, that our vitals in our body is more flowing, that all our organs work together on a very biological level, but that our thoughts are flowing, that we have better, healthier emotions. So we shouldn't be afraid of breathing. Now,
the very important point is that, there's a huge difference between, as you already pointed out, and as Devi indicated, is huge difference between a conscious breath and an unconscious breath. So it's about awareness, using the breath for a purpose. And that's very powerful.
Yeah, and I think we're really going into a time where conscious living is something like 100 years ago. I don't think the term existed.
Yeah.
And we are really actually fortunate to live at a time. I'm just thinking of my own mother. I was with her this morning. She's 93 years old. And she had 3 strokes last year. And I remember in the hospital, sometimes she would get very anxious because different things happened to her body, different things happened to her mind, which she couldn't control, and she was a control freak till that time. But the interesting part was I would just sit with her, and she was blind because of the strokes. And I would just sit, that was the most horrible thing for her to ever happen. But I would just sit with her when she got anxious and guide her to breathe slowly and deeply, different types of breathing exercises. And she realized, but it helps. She herself and her body was in a lot of trauma at the time because of what happened. It was quite severe. And the shock on her whole system. But it was interesting that now when I'm with her, when I'm alone with her, the first thing she said, we must breathe.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it allows the flow in her body. She's now realizing, so she becomes conscious of it. So I'm really deeply grateful that we have practices where we are guided to be me. And again, I don't like to use the control, but to be more present to what's happening to us.
And manage yourself better.
Yeah. And the way we then approach life is then different as well. Like before we maybe go and write an exam, a few breathing exercises and a short meditation, and this has all been scientifically proven. If you're one of those people who need scientific proof, it's all been proven the effect it has on us when we do such practices before exam, before we study, in those type of stressful scenarios, of the state of being it takes us back into, because your knowledge is already in your state of being, what you needed to take in to now give out again in whatever way in the exam. It's simply making that connection between it. And the more we stress about it, the more we cut off the energy flow, the more we cut off oxygen, all types of different things from biological and energetic point of view. But it's so much more fun then, because we're in a state of inner peace, which allows that flow to come through, and we can then connect to whatever we need to from a knowledge perspective, that we can express it through our hands or through typing, whatever media is used. But just simply go to the bathroom, go to do some breathing exercises there. If you're between other people, when you start to feel anxious. But when you study, it's the most amazing way to begin it with and throughout, to just take that pause and to come back to yourself. So how would you two advise the younger ones these days in these type of very stressful experiences? Because I hear it often. You stand at the airport in a line to board a plane, and there's young people behind you, in front of you, who's just written exams, and they're terrified about the results of how they would have done. Before writing an exam, you're in a shop, you hear young ones speak. It's a very chaotic world in that sense, of that type of pressure that's put upon ourselves, the current educational systems. So if you had to give guidance to some of our young ones in terms of what 3 things that they can do before they study or before they go into an exam room, for example.
Well, are you asking me or Devi?
Both of you can interplay.
Yeah. I think, of course, what I would advise most strongly is that the person does some regular practice up until then. Of course, you can breathe right then and get some effect. But if you have built up an inner ability to go to your deeper energy flow and your state, well, then, it happens much more easily, and then you feel your, for example, anger building up or frustration building up. Then instead of acting on it, you take another breath and you make that the energy of that strong emotion flow through your system. So that you can do, but it's very difficult to do if you don't have an inner mechanism to do it. They're inner muscles here that you have to develop over time, which makes you able to concentrate on the energy and not the outward expression. So that would be one thing I would recommend. I also wanted to go back to what you said before, if I may. You mentioned, you know, about being in a group and with a person teaching maybe and that kind of thing. And basically, you know, what you did with your mother, this is the job of a meditation teacher or a yoga teacher. You're not just teaching methods, you are also having a really positive impact on the state of the people around you, because you are basically eating some of their tensions. You know, when they come in, they're tense, they're like that. But then you look through that and you feel from your own more relaxed and centered state, and they will feel that. They will feel, oh, it's possible to relax and be connected with that, because, you know, all of our systems are connected. We are one. So especially when we are in that kind of close proximity to each other, we are influencing each other. So, but, you know, in order to do what you did with your mother, you needed to have a certain training and ability to stay in that state yourself. If you were then totally freaked out and worried, and, you know, then you wouldn't really be able to do that. So this is also an important thing when it comes to helping other people through these kinds of practices. It's not just giving them instruction on how to do the practices, but it is to invite them into a different inner state through your own inner state.
I really like the word, sorry, I just want to mention, I really like the word invite. Thank you, Devi. You wanted to say?
You know, I just wanted to add, because, you know, to your question, what they can do, of course, it's the most important to have a practice, have a regular practice. Of course, there are some first aid things they can do, kind of. So the deep breathing, you know, just really kind of bring your awareness to your breath and really follow the breath. This is the, you know, then you kind of, even if you are there with open eyes, you don't even have to close your eyes to do that, but with the focus inside, kind of shut out the world outside and really focus with a deep breath, follow the breath, yeah. And do that just a few times if you're really in an uproar, totally upset. This is, of course, in that moment, very helpful to bring you down and to then be in a different state, and then you also react in a different state. But I totally agree, you know, it's most important to build up a regular practice, because whenever you have that and you're in a situation, it goes much faster. It's very quick that you get into that state. Of course, you know, we are not always in that, but we have a tool to come back to that state. And it's much easier if we practice it regularly.
That's like your muscles. If I want to be an athlete, I have to practice every day. If I want to be a guitar player, I have to practice every day, or often, at least often. These are our inner muscles, and they are such a big part of our lives, which we have been conditioned, unfortunately, not to get to be introduced to them. But now we have the ability for beautiful practices like these to be introduced to them. So I really appreciate that you say that we actually have to, the same thing, we bath every day, we brush our teeth every day. Why would we want to do that if we don't look after this inner self of ourselves? So it's just to some type of trigger in the morning when I brush my teeth or whenever it is, okay, I neglected that other part of me. Which is no use. I look after my teeth, for example, or my hair, or whatever it is in my body, my beautiful body, but that inner self, have I taken a few minutes today to look after my inner self? We take so much time for outer things and to these other parts of ourselves. And now we are aware of it. Like you said earlier, I liked it, like you said earlier, that our teachers and parents just did the best, they did the best at the time which they could. They were not necessarily aware of all the things we are aware of today. But now we are aware of more. So we have no more excuses that we didn't know. Because the internet blurred everything open, technology and communications allowed us now to have knowledge. And now, even speaking of knowledge, I want to go back to Devi, to what you're saying about that deeper breathing, the energy, the energy flow, is that knowledge is also energy. It's making the connection to that specific bundle of knowledge that we need in a specific moment. That's as simple as it is, actually. But because we have these other denser things that we put our attention to, we're not aware of it. And when you now put your focus into your body, mind, heart system, with the breathing, for example, you become one organism, and that knowledge is already part of you. It's not something separate that you have to go and fetch out there and now write it down. It's already here. It's the way we interpret it and the way we now express it outwards again. And when I'm then anxious, it's very difficult to connect to that spontaneously. But when we use beautiful mindfulness practices and meditation practices and practices like yoga, where we have this deeper connection with the inner self, it actually becomes fun then. This discovery process, this learning process, the experience of life. And as I'm saying these things, I feel it in my heart. It creates a lot of heart energy, which also is expansive. It's not contractive. So anything that makes us contractive is not necessarily good for us, because energy can't flow when we can't deeply contract it for whatever reason. And the first thing that I would then say is strengthen your other practices like meditation and mindfulness and yoga to have that deeper connection. That's very interesting. At this moment where I'm sitting, the sun is shining on this part of my body.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. But also now, if I now, in the larger sense of what we all share today, because we're bigger, we're part of something much bigger than ourselves, and there's no separation. You spoke about oneness earlier, Prem. The sense of oneness, when we go deeper into that, by simply taking our awareness with intention to actually fall into it with our awareness, there's something very interesting happening in our bodies when we do that. And I always say to people, it's very interesting that when a baby comes naturally into the world, they come in backwards, not forward. They're on their backs and they're pushing, there's a power pushing outwards. Why am I saying this? Why am I mentioning this now? If you just put your attention, your awareness to just the concept of oneness, even if it doesn't make any sense to you, and you allow that awareness to drop slowly into your body, it's the most amazing experience, what's happening. Because yes, we need to learn how to do that too. It's also a practice, to be able to allow a word or concept. It's a very different way of perceiving, to allow it to fall into us, instead of us trying to identify outwards with it. So when you use a word like oneness, and I try to identify outwards to it, it might not make any sense to me, because it's not part of my physical experience necessarily. But when I'm just sitting, taking a few deep, slow breaths into my heart or into my belly, and become conscious of my inner self, and now I listen to something, it's a very different learning experience. And unlike if I'm trying to figure something out outwards, like the concept oneness, now my mind's going into all directions. What is mindfulness? Because it tries to make an association. It has a filing system. It tries to put it in there, and it's not known in its filing system. So it can create chaos in here, in this bigger experience here.
The concept of oneness is quite worthless.
Yeah.
Experience of oneness is everything.
So now, if you now take your practices that you so beautifully mentioned, like meditation, and when I say yours, I mean all of ours, But when we take meditation practices, for example, mindfulness practices and breathing, conscious breathing, and we just sit and somebody gives, and I don't like to use the word lecture, but somebody shares something with us. And we simply just sit still, breathe slowly, become present, and just stay in that state, and the person shares whatever they share. It's something very interesting that happens to us from a conceptive point of view and a perception point of view. The way we receive it is very different from when we're trying to figure things out outwards. Like you said, the concept means nothing. It's the physical experience of it that's got its essence, that contains its essence. And the same thing happens with our learning experiences. So when we are learning new things and discovering new things, and simply even in this, so I would like to invite everybody who's going to engage with us later in this beautiful video cast, a joy cast. I would like to invite you to take a different approach when you may be watching other YouTube videos or other Vimeo videos, doesn't matter what the platform is, by simply taking a different approach. Even if you're not having a meditation practice, or whether mindfulness practices or yoga is new to you, take a few slow, deep breaths. Close your eyes if it does help you in the beginning. And purely be present to allow things to come to you. Just have that intention. Because I can guarantee you, you are going to experience this beautiful threesome here in a very different way. Because you're going to go beyond what you see in front of yourself. So much more is going to be available, and your cells have memory. Your cells in each moment receive from what's coming out from externally, and it responds to that. You're a whole person, organism, a whole being. And without thinking about it, you're going to experience what we share today in a very different way. Then when you just sit and watch and look at us and hear what we're saying and allow that to come to you. It's very different. And that's the power of meditation, of yoga, practices like these, of allowing us to come in a state of being where we are completely receptive to what's being shared with us with all our sensibilities, not only one or two. And we don't have to memorize things. It's part of our knowing, because it comes to us in a very different way and we perceive it in a very different way. And that's extremely powerful. So I'd like everybody who's going to engage with us in this way just to try it out. Do both ways and see for yourself the difference. Now, I now feel it in my body. As I'm speaking about this, there's energy flowing out here. There's energy whirling, and it's wonderful in my core. So it's a very empowering energy moving. In my legs, so there's stability. It's moving down to my feet, so it's grounded. And my arms feel like a bird. It's like, just speaking about it. And I can just tell you, this is my personal experience. Don't compare yourself with me. You don't have to do that. We're all very different in the different stages of our life and beingness. But there's power in it. So I would like to invite you to reach out to Devi and to Prem. And I would actually like to challenge you. I don't like to do that naturally, but reach out to them. I'm wordless because I'm going into the energy of it, and I'm feeling in my body how powerful it is that use the technology available to you to reach out to these two beautiful beings and give yourself the opportunity to experience what they are sharing. It's going to impact and influence the way you perceive and experience life. It's going to impact directly your well-being. And if you're a student or at school, it's going to impact the way you learn. So in this moment, Prem and Devi, I would like to ask you, is there a special message you have for our ones who came more recently?
I would suggest try it and don't give up, whatever it is. You can do it because we all have that ability of transformation in us. We need to do it for us and for the people around us, and not only the people, but also for our environment. So I would encourage everybody to try at least start and then see what impact it has.
There's a saying that you rise by that which you fall. So if you feel depression, anger, frustration, all of these things, make an effort to open yourself to something deeper than that, because there is something deeper than that in you, but you may need some technique and help in getting to it. But don't give up, because it's there in every human being. So this is your inner teacher, and if you can learn to listen to that and open to that, then you will get messages. Anything that you experience in your everyday life will flow much more naturally, and you will absorb, digest what you need, and the rest will just go out of your system. So not to be too much in the mind and worry, but rather to be with the breathing and this deeper inner awareness is very important. And we certainly wish you all the best in whatever method or whatever way you pursue your inner development and your development generally in life, and wish you all the best.
Thank you so
And if
much.
you want to make contact with us, we are very available for that. We can have guided meditation. You can get a private, personal yoga practice with Devi. And so, if the interest is there, the availability is also there.
Thank you for that. And just know as well that as the sun is shining upon me now, you've been born with that beautiful ability to go inwards and to discover this amazing, incredible inner self, which is indestructible and most beautiful. And when we take care of that part of ourselves by using these type of practices, it's not even using, because it's not a use thing. It's not a consuming thing. It's a deep relationship with your inner self. Life changes completely. And don't compare yourself with other people, because we all have a very different experience of this beautiful thing called life. So thank you, Devi and Prem, for joining us today. And everybody, their information will be shared with you after this podcast. And don't be shy to reach out to them. Thank you, everyone. We see you soon.